A few weeks ago, while most people were watching domestic headlines, something happened on the other side of the world that barely made a single front page. And I think it deserves far more of your attention than it got. Hong Kong quietly switched on a government-owned gold clearing system, built with formal backing from mainland China, specifically designed to challenge a system London has controlled, largely unquestioned since 1919. Real physical gold, actual bars, was flown out of London, the United States, and Europe into Asia in the weeks leading up to the launch to make it happen. I want to walk you through exactly what this is, why it matters far more than the quiet way it arrived would suggest, and what it tells you about a shift that has been building for years and just took its most concrete step yet. Here is the twist, and I am giving it to you immediately instead of making you wait, because it is the detail that makes this story impossible to dismiss as a minor regional development. The very banks that run London's own gold clearing system are among the founding participants building Hong Kong's new one. JP Morgan, Citi, HSBC, UBS, Standard Chartered, all institutions with deep roots in London's centuries-old dominance over how gold gets priced and settled, signed on as clearing members in Hong Kong. One of them, Citi, formally joined London's own clearing group just one day before Hong Kong's new system launched. Read that carefully. The very institutions that built and profit from London's dominance are simultaneously helping construct what could become its most serious challenger in more than a century. That is not the behavior of banks who think this is a minor experiment. That is the behavior of banks who are hedging their own position against a shift they believe is genuinely coming, whether or not it happens quickly. Before I go further, I want to know who is with me right now. Tell me in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and tell me honestly whether you had heard anything about this before clicking on this video. I read these, and I promise you the pattern in the comments under a video like this always reveals how completely a story this significant can move through the world's financial system while remaining almost entirely invisible to the general public. Let me explain what a gold clearing system actually is, because the concept matters more than the technical name suggests. Most gold trading in the world does not involve physically moving bars back and forth every time a transaction happens. Instead, participants hold what is called an unallocated account, essentially a claim on a shared pool of gold. And when a trade settles, the clearing system simply adjusts the ledger, no trucks, no vault transfers, just an entry updated on a screen. This is precisely the mechanism that made London the dominant global center for gold for more than 100 years, low friction, high speed, and deep institutional trust built up over generations. The daily reference price fixed in London, twice a day, has served as the benchmark used in contracts, derivatives, and central bank reserves across the entire planet since 1919. Hong Kong has now built the exact same kind of infrastructure, backed by its own government, with a formal partnership signed with the Shanghai Gold Exchange, the single largest physical gold exchange in the world, by trading volume, which now holds an actual seat on the board overseeing Hong Kong's new system. If you are finding this useful already, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, because the next part explains why this specific piece of financial plumbing matters so much more than it might initially sound, and it connects directly to a much bigger shift that has been building since 2022. Here is why this matters beyond the technical details of clearing infrastructure. Whoever sets the reference price that the rest of the world's contracts, derivatives, and reserves are built around holds a quiet but genuine form of influence over the entire global gold market, an influence London has held almost entirely uncontested for over a century. Asia accounts for roughly 60% of global gold demand, with China and India standing as the two largest gold-consuming nations on Earth. And yet, until now, neither has had any meaningful say in how the reference price for the metal they consume the most of actually gets set. Hong Kong's new system is explicitly designed to change that, inviting central banks aligned with China's Belt and Road Initiative, a sprawling network of economic partnerships spanning dozens of countries, to clear gold through Asian infrastructure instead of routing everything through the West. There is a deeper reason this push has accelerated in recent years, and it goes back to a single moment that reshaped how much of the world thinks about holding its reserves. In 2022, when a major nation's dollar-denominated reserves were frozen by Western institutions following its invasion of a neighboring country, central banks around the world watched closely and drew a lasting conclusion that reserves held within a financial system controlled by another government can, under the right political circumstances, simply be frozen or cut off entirely. Gold that clears through a nation's own infrastructure, outside the reach of any Western clearing system, does not carry that same vulnerability. Hong Kong's new system, built with Chinese government backing and explicitly courting central banks outside the traditional Western sphere, is a direct, concrete piece of the broader response to that exact realization, giving participating nations a genuine additional layer of financial independence that did not meaningfully exist before this year. Let me make this real with two people, because none of this matters until you see how it lands in an actual life. Neither is real, but both are the kind of person you might recognize. The first I will call Percival, 70, who has always thought of the price of gold as a simple, fixed fact of nature, a single number that exists independently of any human institution, the same way the boiling point of water does. He has never once considered that the number he checks every morning is actually set through a specific human-built process, run out of a specific city by a specific small group of institutions, a process that has quietly operated the same way for over 100 years, without most people ever questioning how it actually works. The second person I will call Wilhelmina, 68, and she understood something Percival never stopped to consider, that the price of anything traded globally is not simply discovered by the universe. It is set through a specific human process, run by specific institutions, in a specific location, and that process can shift over time the same way any other human institution eventually does. When she read about Hong Kong's new clearing system, she did not dismiss it as a distant technical curiosity. She understood it as a genuine, early step in a much larger structural realignment. One worth watching closely, precisely because so few people around her were paying it any attention at all. The difference between them was never how much gold either one owned. It was that one of them assumed the system pricing their gold was simply a fixed fact of nature, and one of them understood it was a human institution built by specific people in a specific place, and therefore capable of genuinely shifting. Now, why do so many careful, intelligent people end up like Percival, assuming a system that has always worked a certain way will simply keep working that way indefinitely? There is a well-documented tendency called status quo bias, the instinct to treat whatever arrangement has existed for as long as we can remember as the natural, permanent order of things, rather than as one historically contingent arrangement among several that could plausibly exist. London's dominance over gold pricing has existed for so long, over a century, that it has become genuinely invisible as a choice, treated instead as simply how gold pricing works, full stop. That is precisely why a story this structurally significant can unfold in real time, with real institutions and real physical gold moving across oceans, while barely registering with the general public at all. There is a historical echo worth knowing here, because the center of gravity in global finance has shifted meaningfully before, and it rarely announces itself with a single dramatic headline when it happens. Major financial centers have risen and faded in relative importance across history as trade patterns, political alliances, and institutional trust gradually shifted from one region to another. And in nearly every case, the shift was well underway, visible to those paying close attention, long before it became the dominant, unavoidable story everyone eventually acknowledged. The lesson from those episodes is not that Hong Kong's new system guarantees London's dominance, and soon. It is that structural shifts like this one tend to build quietly in exactly the kind of undercovered infrastructure story most people miss entirely, right up until the shift itself becomes impossible to ignore. Now, let me be careful and honest with you, because I will not insult you with fear. And this exact subject draws people who want to frighten or excite you into a rushed decision. London remains, today, overwhelmingly, the dominant center for gold pricing and clearing. And that will not change overnight, because one new system began trial operations this year. Hong Kong's system is still in its early stages, and whether it genuinely grows into a serious rival to London or remains a smaller regional complement to it is a real open question that will likely take years to answer, not months. Nobody, not me, not any analyst, can tell you with certainty how far or how fast this shift ultimately goes. What I am giving you is not a prediction of exactly how this plays out. It is an explanation of a genuinely significant, badly undercovered development, so you understand the actual mechanism at work the next time headlines about gold, the dollar, or de-dollarization cross your screen. I want to say a word about silver here too, because a similar dynamic is worth watching as this broader realignment continues. Silver has not been the direct focus of this particular infrastructure shift, but it moves through many of the same underlying channels as gold. And if Asian demand continues capturing more structural influence over how precious metals get priced and cleared globally, silver, with its own separate industrial demand story layered on top, is well positioned to be swept along by the same broader current, potentially with even more force given its comparatively smaller market size. So let us pull this together and go back to where we started. A few weeks ago, Hong Kong quietly launched a government-backed gold clearing system, formally partnered with the Shanghai Gold Exchange, the world's largest physical gold exchange, and backed by 11 major banks, including several of the same institutions that built London's own century-old dominance in the first place. Real physical gold was flown out of London, the United States, and Europe to make it happen. The deeper driver behind this push traces back to 2022, when the freezing of a major nation's reserves taught central banks around the world a lesson about the risks of depending entirely on Western-controlled financial infrastructure. And the difference between the people who understand this story and the people who have never heard of it comes down to one thing: whether you assume the system pricing your gold is a fixed fact of nature or understand it as a human institution that, like every other human institution in history, is capable of genuinely shifting over time. Here is what I want you to carry away from this, stated as plainly as I know how. This is not a call to panic, and it is not a call to make any dramatic move today, because balance and patience matter, especially with retirement savings. It is a call to understand that the infrastructure behind how your gold gets priced is not a permanent fixture of the universe, and that a genuine, concrete shift in that infrastructure is currently underway, quietly, in a story most retail investors have never even heard of. Whether that changes anything about your own plan depends entirely on your own circumstances, your own timeline, and your own comfort with a world that is genuinely becoming more structurally uncertain. And I am not here to tell you the number. I am here to make sure you understand a story that has been unfolding in plain sight while almost nobody was watching. Do not let anyone use this story to rush you into a costly decision today, because there will be people trying, and they get louder every time a structural story like this one gets attention. And do not dismiss it either, telling yourself a clearing system launched on the other side of the world could not possibly matter to your own plan, because you just watched the very banks that built London's dominance quietly hedge their own bets on exactly this shift. Those are two different mistakes, and the sensible path sits calmly between them. None of this is financial advice. Every figure I have referenced, the launch of Hong Kong's precious metals central clearing company, the 11 founding banks, the Shanghai Gold Exchange partnership, the timing of Citi's move into London's own clearing group, comes directly from public reporting on this exact launch, so you can verify every word of it yourself rather than take mine. I opened by telling you that a system controlling how your gold has been priced since 1919 just quietly got a direct challenger, and that almost nobody noticed. Now you understand exactly why it matters. Real physical gold moving across oceans. The same banks that built the old system helping construct its potential successor, and a deeper realignment tracing back to a single moment in 2022 that changed how much of the world thinks about trusting Western financial infrastructure at all. So let me leave you with the question underneath all of it. If the system quietly setting the price of your gold for the last century is genuinely capable of shifting, and the evidence says it just took its most concrete step toward doing exactly that, how much longer can you afford to assume the price on your screen tomorrow gets set the exact same way it always has been?